Hello everyone, this is my walk away video. Been nervous to do this, but I figured why not do it? Just do it. No makeup, no nothing, just do it. I'm waiting in line to pick up my kids, so I have a little bit of time. So my name's Renee Kichakova. I was born in 1982 in Bulgaria when it was still under communist rule. And even before that, let me go back to when my dad was little, when he was 5 years old. He told his mom, he said, "When I grow up, I'm gonna live in America." And he was so proud of himself, and she slapped him across the face and she said, "Don't ever talk like that." You see, in a communist country, you're not supposed to know about Western civilizations. There was like 2 channels, if there was even TV, but when I was little, there was like 2 channels that you can watch, and everything's propaganda and everything's so controlled. When my parents were growing up in those days, if you wear any kind of Western, so like bell bottoms or anything like that, you can be put in camp. I mean, it's not camp. It's like jail. Like if you, like the communist camps, like their political camps and all these things, they're really like jails. One of the first things that communists do is they take away church. So when I was little, my parents were not religious. They were not allowed to go to church. My grandparents were not allowed to go to church. So this was generations. But my great grandparents, that generation that was almost completely had died off by that time, they were still allowed to go to church. So when I was 1, my great grandma took me in to get baptized because that generation was the last generation that was allowed to go to church. And just think about taking religion away. I didn't grow up with any religion. I didn't grow up with any dogmas, anything like that. And neither did my parents or my grandparents. So that's one thing to think about. It's just not there. There's no higher power. There's nothing talked about that's faith or anything positive that will get you through hard situations. It's like hush hush, right? You just look to the government to tell you what to think, to tell you what to do. You wait in long lines to get your food. I remember being so little, and my aunt, she went and got bananas. Okay, you wait in line. There's one time during the year you can get bananas. And you wait in line, you get your bag of bananas, and she sat us down, me and my cousin, and she said, "Eat the bananas." I must have been probably 3 or 4. And we sat there and we had to eat all the bananas before they went bad. And to this day, I hate bananas, but that was life, you know, that's how things were. And when I was 4 years old, I remember my parents, I walked past their room and it was very, there was a lot of like tension in the room. My mom was crying. Their suitcases were packed. I think at this time, I mean, what they were going through. And I walked in there and I asked my mom, I said, "What's going on? Where are you going?" And she put me on her lap and she said, "Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. Everything's okay." And she sent me off to bed. The next day, my parents were gone. They escaped. Now, they couldn't tell anyone. They couldn't tell me, obviously. They couldn't tell anyone what was going on. My aunt, who was 20 years old at the time, going through a divorce. She was married at 15. She was going through a divorce. She was emotionally unavailable to take care of me and my cousin. So she was there for me, but my parents were gone. They left. Our when the government found out that they had left, because it was so dangerous, they couldn't take me with them. I mean, they would have captured them and put them in political prison and forgotten about them forever. There's just, it was unheard of to escape during that time. Very few people escaped. My dad had a job at a ship. So he worked on ships where he traveled to like Africa and down the Mediterranean. So he saw different countries. He saw a glimpse that most did not. So that gave him the idea of how to escape, because he came in with a mission to leave and move to America one day. He literally came in with that mission. He was a system buster. In the system, the communist system couldn't keep him. And so my mom had faith. They had faith. Even with no religion, they had faith. And they escaped. And I remember during that time, my grandma was married to a Westerner, Czechoslovakian man. So she was able to travel to the Western world. She was able to travel to Austria and different places like that. And so she was able to come and visit me, but they wouldn't really let her anymore. Once my parents escaped, my grandma couldn't come visit me. And I remember government agents coming and patting me on the head when I was in daycare to make sure that that my parents didn't find a way to smuggle me, that my grandma didn't come and take me on the train and leave with me to Austria. Like, they kept her, they wouldn't let her leave Bulgaria until the government made sure I was still in daycare. That was one of the last times she visited me. So they wouldn't let her leave until they made sure that I was in school. And then they called the station, said, okay, she's okay to leave. So these kind of tactics, they had our phones tapped anytime my parents would call. They found out where my parents are. They would tell them that they're never going to see their daughter again, that they're traitors to the country. I mean, just some of the worst things that you can possibly say to someone. And my parents went through a lot, and they escaped because it was worth it for them. They wanted a better life for themselves and eventually me. I mean, they didn't know if they were going to see me again. My grandma fought for me. She moved to Austria and was able to go to the embassy there, and they fought for me. My parents had no rights. They were immigrants and refugees, but my grandma had rights, and she fought for me. And eventually, 2 years later, they fought for me so much that the communist government was not allowed to hold me anymore. They had to give me a passport. And they waited until my parents' passport was about to expire. So they knew all the information. They knew that my parents had to leave Austria to go to Canada. And they waited until the day they left for Canada to release me, so I can be away from my parents even longer, several months more. Like, they did those things on purpose. My grandma, when she fought for me, they told her that only the communists will keep a child away from her parents. And that's the way they do it. So finally, they were able to release me. I was reunited with my grandma, but I thought I was going to be reunited with my parents. I forgot what they looked like. I forgot who they were. I forgot their voices. 2 years without them. So I turned 6 in Austria and had an amazing time with my grandma there. And then several months later, I finally was reunited with my parents. I flew on a plane by myself from Austria to Canada. And that's where my parents were, and I was finally reunited. And all of that was worth it to come to this country. We are now in America. And my dad was able to build a life, the American dream for us. I have 2 siblings now, and we grew up here. I grew up in Canada, and I, from the age of 13, have lived here in the United States. And he built one of the largest companies, a plumbing company, and it was, you know, he had offices from California to Florida, and he built that American dream for us. He knew he wanted freedom. He knew he wanted to live in a country where you can build and create the life of your dreams. And that's my story. I grew up here. I never thought I would be so proud to be American. I never really looked at all the things that happened and put them all together until now. I came here thinking, wow, I thought this would be freedom, but it never really felt too free. It felt very corrupted in the government sections. You know, I didn't care much about government. I didn't care much about politics. None of that stuff. Never really looked into it. And it just felt, it still felt communist. It still felt like it was controlled. And then it wasn't until, you know, Hillary and Trump were running, and I thought, that night I went to bed thinking, there's no way Trump would win. He's an independent, he's not a part of the system. Hillary's a shoo-in. It's so corrupted. It's so planned beforehand that no one has a chance if they're not in it like she has been in it. And I secretly wanted Trump to win, but I still didn't believe in politics enough to even vote. I recently became registered to vote. For the first time this year, I'm going to vote for Trump, of course. But I can't say I was a walk away, because I was never a walk. I was never a Democrat. I was never anything. I didn't care about any of it. That morning when I woke up, I went to bed thinking there's no way Trump will win. I woke up thinking, wow, we literally just jumped into a new paradigm. What a shift in consciousness. Like, we shift timelines. It felt so surreal that Trump even got in. And I started paying attention. From that moment on, I started paying attention. What is going on? I knew the WikiLeaks. I knew all the stuff. I'm intuitive enough to know about everything and where to look for information. So I knew what was going on with all of it. And then, you know, when the information started coming out, and when Trump started talking about the stuff that we all knew but was hidden for so long, I started paying attention. And I've never been more involved or more, I've just learned about politics like it's my job. Like, every day I'm doing homework, politics, Marxism. I mean, learning about what is this ideology that has taken over the world, right? This communism, Marxism, socialism, whatever you want to call it, it's the same. And people have died to escape it. We are here. Everyone that's here in this great country, they have escaped that ideology. We're all system busters. We're all, you know, we're like the rebels, and we all made it here. And our ancestors fought so hard to get here. Don't ever forget that. We don't even know the freedom that we have until we've experienced life in those countries. And you will fight to the death to get this freedom, and people don't understand that here. Nobody gets it. The younger generations don't get it. My generation doesn't get it. You know, but the plan is amazing. I mean, they have done a good job of brainwashing people. The news and everything is propaganda. It's the same tactics, the same. And people from about 20 years ago have started hating America and switching and now being used to bring in those same ideologies. They're being tricked. And we have to open our eyes and see it for what it is. It's important that Trump wins. And I'm really proud and excited to go and vote for the first time. And that's my story. And love you all. Bye.